divine source. Today, in a world drowning in noise and disconnection, the Shemhamphorash re-emerges not as a forgotten artifact, but as a spiritual compass. Its secrets challenge us to listen beyond the literal, to feel the sacred resonance behind each syllable. This mystical code was never meant to be owned, only honored, never meant to be understood in theory, but lived in experience. In this journey, you won't just learn about the 72 names of God, you'll remember something deeper, a part of you that already knows, a memory of sound as creation, of language as light. And as we explore the secrets of the Shemhamphorash, the mystical code of the 72 names of God, you may begin to hear what's always been calling, the divine, encoded in vibration, waiting to be reawakened within you. Among the countless names ascribed to the divine throughout history, none carry the same weight of mystery and reverence as the Shemhamphorash, often translated as the expressed name, or more precisely, the explicit name of God. This term doesn't just refer to a title, it refers to an experience, a threshold, a sacred boundary between the ordinary and the holy. In ancient Jewish and Kabbalistic traditions, this name was never to be uttered casually. It was not for sermons, not for songs, not even for prayer in the conventional sense. It was a sound preserved for the highest ritual, spoken only by the high priest and only within the innermost chamber of the holy temple. On Yom Kippur, the Day of Atonement, when the veil between worlds was believed to be at its thinnest, it wasn't silence out of fear. It was silence born from reverence. To speak this name required more than a voice. It required a soul in alignment. The ancients understood something we've nearly forgotten in our age of noise, that the most potent forces are not always loud. True power often hides in stillness, in humility, in restraint. The Shemhamphorash was never about magic for spectacle. It was a sacred technology, a conduit between finite and infinite, meant to be approached not with curiosity alone, but with devotion and transformation. And so, it was hidden, not erased, but encoded, veiled in layers of scripture, guarded by generations of mystics, and revealed only to those deemed ready, not by birthright, but by consciousness. In a world obsessed with naming and labeling, the Shemhamphorash stands as a paradox, a name that transcends the very act of naming. It was never about syllables, it was about resonance. It wasn't the letters themselves that held the power, but the state of being required to awaken them. Perhaps this is the greatest mystery of all, that the divine is not waiting to be spoken, it is waiting to be remembered. And remembering requires more than intellect. It calls for inner stillness, a listening beyond the ears, a knowing that hums quietly beneath the surface of thought. Because in the end, the Shemhamphorash isn't a name you speak to control the world. It's a name that, when spoken from the right place, reveals that you and the world were never separate to begin with. The Shemhamphorash, as concealed as it is sacred, does not emerge from myth alone. It is rooted in the very fabric of Scripture, hidden in plain sight within the ancient verses of Exodus. According to mystical tradition, this divine name was not given, it was encoded, not recited, but revealed only through deep contemplation and sacred geometry of language. The legend begins with a moment of awe and terror, the parting of the Red Sea. Exodus 14:19-21. 3 verses, 72 Hebrew letters in each. On the surface, a historical narrative of escape and deliverance. But to the eyes of the initiated, something else shimmers beneath the text. The Kabbalists teach that by arranging the letters of these 3 verses in a specific pattern, first verse in forward order, second in reverse, third again forward, a hidden grid emerges, 72 triplets, each composed of 3 Hebrew letters, 72 names, 72 keys, each one a unique expression of divine force, like individual notes in the infinite symphony of creation. This is not code in the modern sense. This is vibrational architecture. Each of these 72 names is said to carry its own spiritual frequency, its own mission. One might evoke protection, another healing, another the dissolving of ego or the awakening of divine memory. They are not simply names to be spoken. They are living energies to be meditated upon, contemplated, absorbed. Tools not for domination, but for transformation. Mirrors in which the soul sees its own sacred potential reflected back. And what better moment for such a mystery to emerge than the parting of the sea? It is no coincidence that this divine revelation unfolds at the edge of the impossible. When the Israelites stood before the sea with Pharaoh's army at their back and no path ahead, it wasn't military strength or strategy that saved them. It was something else. A shift in consciousness, a leap of faith, a sacred utterance carried in silence. The sea, like the soul, does not part through force. It parts when the vibration is right, when fear dissolves and alignment is restored. The crossing was not just physical, it was symbolic. It was the passage from bondage to freedom, from ignorance to awakening, from name to name. And so the 72 names endure, not as artifacts, but as invitations, each one a doorway into deeper consciousness, a harmonic thread linking us to the divine intelligence woven into all things. They remind us that the sacred is never far. It is encoded in every moment, waiting to be unlocked not with the mind alone, but with the heart aligned. The number 72 itself is no accident. It carries the symbolism of balance and wholeness. 72 degrees in a pentagram, 72 years for a degree of precession, 72 muscles in the human face, 72 generations in sacred texts. In every layer, it echoes harmony, alignment, divine design. The Shem HaMephorash is not a relic. It is a map, pointing us not outward but inward, toward the sacred architecture that's been there all along. Long before science began to measure frequency or vibration, the ancients already knew. Sound is not a byproduct of reality, it is its foundation. Every word, every tone, every syllable uttered into existence carries with it a resonance, a ripple that stretches beyond the audible and into the invisible fabric of consciousness itself. To speak is to shape. To name is to summon. To vibrate is to create. In the beginning, there was the word, not merely a poetic metaphor, but a metaphysical truth that echoes across spiritual traditions. Whether it is the logos of the Greeks, the Om of the Vedas, or the divine breath in Genesis, each mythos carries this same understanding. Sound precedes form. The universe, in its vast complexity, is born from vibration. And the Shem HaMephorash, those 72 sacred names, are expressions of this primordial act of creation. But these are not ordinary sounds. They are pure utterances, said to bypass the analytical mind and speak directly to the soul. When recited with intention or meditated upon with reverence, they do not merely fill the air, they retune the being. They align the inner frequencies of the self with the divine pattern. Like striking a tuning fork in the silence of the heart, they awaken something forgotten but ever present, the memory of oneness. Modern science now glimpses what the mystics have always known. Cymatics, sound made visible, reveals intricate geometric patterns formed by specific frequencies. Sand on a vibrating plate takes shape, not randomly, but precisely, elegantly. Form responding to sound, matter responding to energy. In the same way, our inner world, thoughts, emotions, even physical health, responds to the quality of the vibrations we expose ourselves to. And few vibrations are as potent as the sacred names. These names are not magic spells. They are reminders of our own potential to speak life or destruction into existence. Every word we utter carries the echo of creation. The question is, what are we creating? Are our words healing or harming, lifting or limiting? When spoken from ego, even truth can be twisted. But when spoken from love, even silence becomes a song. The Shemhamphorash teaches us that creation is not reserved for the divine. It is a shared power, a co-creative dance between the infinite and the aware. Each of us holds within our breath the seed of that original vibration. We may not always know how to access it, but it's there, in the pause between thoughts, in the moment before a word is spoken, in the intention behind every syllable. To use sound consciously is to live consciously. It is to honor the sacredness of expression, to understand that every whisper ripples through eternity. The 72 names, then, are not just tools to be studied. They are invitations to speak with care, to listen with depth, and to remember that even the quietest voice, when aligned with the divine, carries the power to move oceans. But the power of the Shemhamphorash goes far beyond pronunciation. It is not merely about uttering sacred syllables, it is about internal transformation. Each of the 72 names is not just a word, but a mirror, a reflection of a spiritual quality waiting to be awakened within us. Mercy, strength, clarity, discipline, humility, compassion, each vibrational key carries a frequency of consciousness. And when approached with intention, it begins to reshape us from the inside out. This is the essence of inner alchemy, not the transmutation of lead into gold, but the transmutation of ego into soul, of reaction into awareness, of fragmented self into divine coherence. It is a slow process, often invisible but profoundly real, because to invoke these names is not to manipulate divine forces, it is to align with them. And alignment, by its nature, is transformational. The ancient mystics taught that each human being is a temple and each name is a lamp. As we meditate upon these divine expressions, we illuminate our own inner sanctum. We begin to see more clearly where the shadows still reside, where pride clings, where fear whispers, where illusion hides. But rather than judge ourselves, we are invited to bring presence, to hold each flaw in the light of divine awareness, to understand that transformation is not about perfection, it is about honesty, surrender, and devotion. Each name in the Shemhamphorash is paired with a specific angelic energy, not in the way we often imagine angels with wings and halos, but as archetypes of divine function, forces of grace, guidance, and healing that reflect cosmic principles. These angelic aspects are not outside of us, they are potentials within. As above, so below, as within, so without. By calling upon these names, we activate forgotten aspects of our own divine nature. But none of this happens through mere repetition. The sacred names are not magic spells in the childish sense. They are living frequencies, and they require a living heart. They open not to the loud, but to the sincere, not to the curious mind alone, but to the soul that longs to remember. And so, the process becomes devotional, a practice not of control, but of communion, not of seeking power,